Thank you, Shyam. Thanks for the generous introduction. And I'm sorry that I am not able to switch on my video because I am traveling right now. I thought there'll be one more speaker, so by that time I'll reach home. But one speaker is missing, and then I think the traffic is too much. So I'm sorry. So I'll keep my video off, but I'll be speaking to you. Thanks to Nirmala. Nirmala, thank you for involving me here and giving me an opportunity to interact with all of you. Uh, when we talk of peace, and tomorrow is Gandhi Jayanti. Tomorrow we are celebrating the birthday of Gandhi. And without him, we cannot talk of peace, we cannot talk of non-violence. So I thought before I speak about the national education policy of ours or the engaged students which we talk about, let me talk a little bit about Gandhi. And when we talk of peace, I always feel that Gandhi was so thin and frail, and you would think that a small gust of wind will blow him away. But yet, he was a man on whose single command millions were ready to do anything, even die. So that was the power of truth. That was the power of non-violence. That was the power of love. Gandhi, he introduced the concept of truth and non-violence to this world. He made us all realize the value of freedom, freedom to live with dignity, freedom to choose a life we desire, freedom from bias, freedom from discrimination. So a man like Gandhi, and that too at that point of time, I mean, it's almost, we got independence 75 years back. We are celebrating 75 years of India's independence. So 1869, he was born. So at that time, he showed the power of love, the power of non-violence. And what I feel is that the dreams and idols of Mahatma Gandhi, they can be very well met if we really teach the principles of Gandhi to our students. So it is very, very important that our students listen to the speeches of Gandhi, they read few of his works, they should know what great man he was. Why we always say that he was I mean, he showed by leading by example. He didn't preach. He always showed that yes, what we are doing and what we should not be doing, and he had a mass following. So that means peace is something which is just a second. I think it is. Am I audible? So I think peace is something which can be taught to the students. So therefore, when we talk of the national education policy, which we got after 34 years, and I always say that is a very innovative policy, very forward-looking policy. In that national education policy, a lot of emphasis has been given to holistic education, that the holistic development of the students should be there. They talk of student induction programs where the student should be taught the value system should be sort of induced in the students so that they learn the power of values. It's not only the competition, it is cooperativeness. So therefore the national education policy on the whole talks about the holistic development of the students, and when it talks holistic development, it talks of love, it talks of compassion, talks of kindness, it talks of sort of teamwork. That they say that all these virtues should be nurtured in the students. It will not come on their own. The teachers should be the ones who should be the role models for the students, and the values should be nurtured into the students. There should be a special program on value education and character building so that the peace will prevail only when the value education is given to the students. Without that, you are seeing that every day how what type of cutthroat competition is happening amongst the students, or even the road rage which you talk about every day. So many cases we hear. But peace and value education, that is something which very important in the national education policy, because you know that India is a land of Buddha. India is a land where since beginning we have been talking about living together, coexistence, living with the nature. Therefore, it is very important that our students learn, and then somehow, somewhere, we lose touch with the nature, somewhere we lose touch with the community. And I do remember that when the first university in the country was established, and incidentally, the first university in the world was established, and incidentally, it was India where the first university of the world was established, Takshila. At that time also, it was felt that due to, or maybe because of the development, because of the establishment of this university, the community around the university should develop. So a holistic development of the community should be there. But slowly, what happened was that we started losing connect with the community, and the life within the four walls of the university and the life outside the four walls of the university was totally a different life. Rather, the ones who were inside the four walls felt that they are some elite classes, and the ones who were outside are lesser mortals. So, what is required and what is again recommended in the national education policy is that we should be creating engaged students, and the universities should be engaging with the community around the university. I'll share some of the experiences and some of the experiments I did in one of the universities where I was vice chancellor. That was BPS Women University. It was a rural women university in Haryana. And there I saw that although it was a rural women university, the engagement with the outside world was very, very limited. So we tried to bridges, and the bridges, how they were created, I'll just tell you that what we opened, the first center which we opened in the university was Center for Society, University Interface and Research. Normally, people open the Center for Industry Linkages and all those things, but the first center which we opened was Center for Society, University Interface and Research. And in that center, we used to talk to, say, village women. We used to invite them. We used to develop small technologies for them. For example, our students, we even started 2, 3 courses. Like there was a course on microfinancing, there was a course on folk medicine. So in microfinancing, our students used to do course. I mean, every such course was 50-50 basis, in the sense that 50% was in the classroom and 50% was in the community. So our students used to go to the community, talk to the village women, make the self-help groups, and then encourage them to do small things, like somebody will open a grocery shop, somebody will even buy a buffalo and become financially independent. They didn't even know how to open a bank account. So their bank accounts were open, their ATM cards were made. And when the first time they drew the money from that, withdrew the money from the ATM card, I could see the empowerment on their faces. For the first time when I saw, I mean, such a small thing, I just could not imagine that in one lady, she opened a shop because of the help we rendered, when because of the microcredits she took. And when the board of the shop had the name of that particular lady, she was saying, okay, you think that the board can be in my name also? I thought the boards are always in the name of the men. So that small thing created so much of empowerment in her, and that, I mean, she really did well. So what I want to say is that the universities should engage with the community in a much better manner. For example, in this course of folk medicine, because we had a Ayurveda college in our university. So in this folk medicine course, the students used to go to village women to find out what type of medicines they use for themselves as well as for the cattle, so that it can be documented and standardized. Otherwise, all that knowledge will go away with them. Those, I mean, it's such a precious knowledge which is available with our older folks, but we are not paying any attention to that. So these type of things we did. We developed small machines. For example, the electricity was a problem in rural household. So we developed a machine instead of electricity, washing machine, which used to work with cycling. So later we named it as fitness cum washing machine. So small line, but then the community felt that yes, we are doing something for them. Sometimes they, I mean, even using the government schemes, they could not use it because they didn't have the know-how, how to use it, how to apply for the schemes, how to get the money. So university helped them. So what I want to say is, when you talk of education, when you talk of the universities or the colleges, we should talk of the students within the university who are developed in such a manner, who are groomed in such a manner, who are nurtured in such a manner that their holistic development is there, and then their feelings are such that they think for the society, they feel for the community. They should feel that yes, we have to do something for the society. So if we don't make them feel so, I don't think they will be, I mean, we'll be giving proper education to our students. Education only for earning a living, only for earning, say, fat packages, I don't think that is the real education. The real education means that education which makes them complete human beings, which makes them good citizens, which makes them global citizens, so that whenever they, wherever they go, they, I mean, we should proudly say that yes, they are from India, and that is why their value system is so strong. They are from India, therefore their culture is so strong. They are from India, therefore they give a lot of importance to all these virtues, which at times are not considered so well in, say, Western world, where everything is related to competition only. So whether it is yoga, Ayurveda, so many of our uh, traditional things are there which we want to inculcate in our students. And the national education policy very clearly talks about evolving good citizens, citizens with good value system, citizens with good character. The character is something which is very important, and unless all that is taken care of, we cannot think of having universities which are doing the holistic development of the students. And for that, and the first and foremost thing is that the teachers have to work as the role models of the students. And unless the teachers work as a role model, students have so many queries. Students have to be, I mean, they cannot be preached. They have to be shown that yes, it can happen. So once it is shown, then obviously that they have to be empowered. I remember a story in which it is a story of a guru, means a teacher, and a student. And in that, the student argues with the teacher that you say that God is there. I'm talking about Indian context. It's guru and a shishya, we call in India. So there is a story in which the shishya says, Guruji, you say that the God is there. If God is there, why I'm not able to see the God? So the Guruji says, okay, tell me, are you able to see the bell hanging in the middle of the room? The student says, yes, I can see the bell, and that proves my point. I'm able to see the bell because it is there. And I'm able to see whatever table, chair, roof, fan, everything I'm able to see. But I'm not able to see the God. So then the teacher says, okay, if you were blind, will you still see the bell? The student is a bit perplexed, but then he says, okay, Guruji, if I am blind, I'll not be able to see the bell, but I'll be able to hear the bell. So God, I cannot even hear. So how do I believe God is there? Then Guruji says, okay, if you were blind as well as deaf, will you know that the bell is there? Now the student is again taken aback. Again he thinks. Then he says, okay, Guruji, if I was blind as well as deaf, I won't be able to see the bell. I won't be able to hear the bell. But I can touch and tell that the bell is there. But God, I cannot even touch and tell whether the God is there or not. Then Guruji says, okay, if you are blind, if you are deaf, and if you lose the sense of touch, will you know whether the bell is there or not? Now the child thinks, okay. He says, Guruji, if I cannot see, if I cannot feel the touch, if I cannot hear, obviously I will not know whether the bell is there or not. But then the Guru says, but the bell is there. The only fact that you don't have all these three powers doesn't negate the presence of the bell. Similarly, if you want to see the God, you have to first acquire those powers which can help you to see the God. And who will help him to acquire these powers? Guru, the teacher. So that is why the role of the teachers is so important, that they are the ones who will be empowering their students to see something which they are not able to see ordinarily, something which is not visible to them right now. But once they acquire those powers, Once those powers are given to them by the Guru, then they can be seeing something which is actually not visible to them today. So therefore, I say that if we really want to make students uh, holistically developed students, if we want to make students with good value system, the role of guru or the teacher is very, very important. And if the teachers play their role in a right manner, then obviously India, Vishwaguru, we always say that India will be a Vishwaguru. So I really feel that national education policy, if implemented in letter and spirit, and if the teachers do their duty not as a profession, but as a passion, then obviously India will once again emerge as a Vishwaguru. It was a Vishwaguru once again, you remember the Nalanda time when something like 10,000 foreign students were studying in India. Today we are craving for foreign students. At that time we were Vishwaguru. We can be Vishwaguru once again. We can be Vishwaguru in spreading the message of love, message of kindness, message of empathy, message of peace, message of non-violence. India has been a country which has been practicing non-violence. So Gandhi is with India. So therefore, I think India is a messenger of peace for the whole world. Non-violence day is being celebrated on Gandhi's birthday by the whole world. So it really shows that yes, India is something which can spread the message of happiness and peace and non-violence. And our universities, our colleges, our schools, and our teachers primarily can play a lot of role in achieving that goal. So with that, I'll thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to take the questions if there are.